Hi, Jim. So we are being recorded, and good evening to you.
And good evening, good morning to you.
Thank you.
All the way over the way. Yes, I love the fact that we straddle the globe.
Yeah, we do.
It gets a bit confusing for me at times. In fact, I was ready to go live yesterday because I was kind of looking at Sunday, Monday, where? Okay. So I've now found where I am, and I know what day it is most times.
Okay.
Indeed, yes. So very exciting to be going live with the first of our 5 days.
Yeah.
It's been a journey.
Certainly.
Yes.
Yeah, and I so appreciate your commitment given everything going on in your life right now.
Well, thank you very much, Claire. And I haven't been thinking of that, actually. I've been thinking much more about how grateful I am for you picking up the bits that I haven't been able to keep hold of and do the bits that, and just standing there supporting and balancing, filling the void that my time that I haven't been able to concentrate on, that left. And so, yes, I've got huge gratitude and thank you very, very much for that.
Thank you.
And as I think I said to you earlier on, didn't I? I suddenly thought of, I began thinking of it as, when a seed germinates and pops out, it shoots, and there's no guarantee that it's going to be a, majestically tall anything. It might be actually quite challenged on the side of a cliff face or something, and it might only be a very characteristically, some might say, ugly thing, others wouldn't. And so when I realized, it's like, well, we are doing this, and regardless of the challenges that are around us, we are going to do this, and it will grow. And I look forward to planting more seeds, and we can watch those grow in the way that they do come the time.
Okay. Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It has been challenging. It's very exciting, and I'm enjoying the challenge and the excitement. And I'm really keen, actually. It makes me realise that this is what we can do, having never met each other face to face.
And
known each other for a shortish amount of time. We've known each other for a year or so, I think, haven't we?
It would be more than a year now. At least maybe, close to 2 years, I think. Maybe not quite 2. Yeah, maybe not quite 2 years, but close. Yeah.
It's a good job we're not married. It's like, Jim, come on, it's been on 2 years. How dare you?
You're funny.
Sorry, I'll remember our anniversary next year.
I don't remember exactly any.
So anyway, yes, having known each other, for however long we have, and obviously working together for a shorter time. But I've enjoyed it immensely. I've enjoyed the different way that we see things and the similarities and the differences within those similarities that just bring different nuances and aspects to how I see things. And I do love exploring things with you. And like I say, having us at other ends of the globe kind of brings me brings me the picture of polarity and balance, and so that somewhere in the middle we are achieving that balance. So I'm very grateful for that too.
Thank you, Jim. Yeah, I think it's always, for me, I think even on this call we are complementing each other, like just different skills, different characters. So yeah, I appreciate. Yeah,
absolutely. So what has been I was going to ask you what's been one of the biggest challenges of this process? I think perhaps on day one, let's not go to that question, but that's with the exercise that we set for the exploration of senses. Do you want to maybe talk a bit about how you go about that process?
Okay. Yeah. So for me, I thought, okay, I set the exercises, but you and I, excuse me, you and I both know that with nature connection, or deepening your nature connection rather, that it's, yes, you learn the framework, the process as a human, because we use our intellect, but without the actual experiences, it probably doesn't mean anything. Like all the previous framework and all the processes can be easily discounted, because you can't speak of, to me, the true knowledge comes from experiences. You can learn it in your intellect, but until you can apply it, it probably doesn't mean anything. So I think, okay, I have done this many times, but this time I've said it in a very different way, because you and I, we've been leading gatherings. This 5-day thing, it's the first time for us. And even though you have looked at the same tree a million times, it's just right near where you live. But if you haven't really looked at it close enough, and you go, gee, on a sunny day, it looks so different. So I think that's what this day one for me is. I know I have set the task, but I still got to do it myself. And I think I've got plenty of new experiences. This is one of the questions I set in the exercises that, I'm happy to reflect upon and share with you as we go along. And I think doing it also with my kids, I've got twin, identical girls with me. Melbourne is out of lockdown, but cases here, it's all relative. Like in the Australian context, it's still fairly high, and kids are not vaccinated. And we go, okay, well, we better keep them home because Christmas is only, I don't know how many weeks away, and the center is going to be closed. So I thought doing it with kids give me another set of new experiences, because one of the sense is called sense of play, humor, and pleasure. It's quite a long one, and I got to look at the piece of paper to figure out the proper full name, right? And we know it's not about remembering the full name of the senses. It's about, okay, I've got this piece of paper, and now, okay, as probably a quiet, relative-ish serious adult, how can I do it in a way that I haven't explored it for a while? So when I did with my kids, we played a game. I think it's a proper time for me to actually go into a bit deeper, is because we've been playing the bad wolf game. Then they like me to go after them, but they don't like to be caught. So I thought, can we play another game? And they go, let's play the restaurant game. I said, okay. Oh, then there they go. Okay, this is what's on our menu, popcorns, chicken nuggets, blah, blah, blah. And they go, and the sleepover is on the menu as well. And I just burst into laughter. And for me, that was like, just for me, because it's almost like a improvise, like they're improvising for me. They're not thinking in a way that's so structured and logical like us. And we actually did the sleepover. I had to wake up really, really grumpy and all that kind of stuff. And then the game carried on. So I just had a lot of fun, really engaging with their senses. And it made me feel kids are truly funny, and they're here to bring us joy. And I feel maybe that's how humanity just carries on, because we've got kids here, like through them we see our own inner nature, like our own innate nature, that we're all joy and love. It can sound very spiritual, but I think when you truly let go of all our conditioning, this is our true nature. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, that sense of playfulness and everything else that's in that label. it's a beautiful thing, isn't it? And so it can be lost so easily, for one thing.
Yeah.
But the effect it has when you can regain it, if even just for a few moments,
Yeah,
it's incredible. I mean, well, actually, funnily enough, when I got the day wrong or forgot where I was, and I suddenly realised, oh, I don't have to be sitting on the computer for an hour. I just went up and saw one of my boys, and I said, I've just realised I don't have to work. He goes, yeah, and I said, so that means we can play. And we did end up doing forward rolls across the room, and all this kind of stuff. And so all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this lovely little bubble arrived. And I also feel, I also see, I lose my sense of playfulness regularly. I take myself far too seriously, which I think many people would probably agree with. But I think playfulness does come through in nature. Just the other day, for example, I live in an old house, and we do have the occasional mouse, or 2 or 10 or however many. And I woke up one morning, I could hear this noise, and a mouse had managed to get into a bag of porridge oats, just on the shelf. And this mouse had somehow got into the top, but it was too deep to get back out. So I put him on the side, and I left him there, and I thought, right, okay, well, I'm going to do the school run. So I'll take Oscar, my boy, to school, and I'll set the mouse free, because you've got to do it more than 2 or 3 miles away from where you are, otherwise they just come back. And I completely forgot about the mouse. So I got back from school, and there on the worktop was the bag of porridge oats, but now there was a hole in the bag, and the mouse had disappeared. And I thought, well, why didn't you do that when you first got stuck? But no, so whilst in the half or 3/4 of an hour I was out of the house, it had escaped and gone. So then I thought, okay, fine, yes, you win on that one. And then I was doing a bit of tidying up, and I was putting some trousers in the wash, and a handful of porridge oats fell out of the trouser pocket. And I certainly didn't put them in there. But me and mice we've had this running before. I mean, I've been woken up at night by one biting my little finger, because we have this ongoing, right, I'm gonna catch you, I'm not gonna catch you, and it really is Tom and Jerry-ish, but they keep on getting the upper hand. So there's the humour that comes through is incredible. Also, on that note, I think, just going back to you're talking about the complexity of the label of that sense.
Yeah.
And of course, there are many senses that are described. And some people will say there are 10, 12, 20, 54, whatever. Now, obviously, the label, the black and white description, is just a description. So in our minds, we're not thinking, oh, not experiencing, oh, this is the sense, this is sense number 28, sense of play, whatever it is, because it's just experience, it's sensing. And so at that point, when we're experiencing those senses, that's obviously the real landscape, rather than looking at the map and the key to the map in the books with the list of senses that we may or may not be experiencing. And also, it takes it away from how we should be experiencing them, because my body is my body, my place in nature is my place in nature with nature, and so my experience is completely that, mine. And so, of course, we come to that barrier, or that potential stumbling block of communicating meaning from one person to another. We're talking about the same thing, but because of our different points of view or filters, or the way we take in information, we get a different slant on it. So I think all the words in the world are obviously very useful. I love words, but at the end of the day, it does come down to experience, as you say, and just sitting and experiencing and being animal in nature, even if we do have this extra facility to discern more deeply than other animals might be, and to plan in the future and to regret the past. I don't think animals regret as much as we do.
Yeah. And I think it's, I suppose, again, when you touch upon the future and the past, the senses do truly bring us to the moment, isn't it? Because when we engage with the senses, it's all about that moment in time. I suppose from hindsight, I'm glad that I avoided the sense of memories, so that we didn't have to go back to the past. Just really help everyone else to stay in the moment.
Absolutely. And so when you were saying that, the devil's advocate in my mind pops up with things like, yeah, what about grief and excitement? And of course that's right, but it is still the feeling in the moment now. The grief is about something that has been lost in the past, or something that was never had.
Yeah.
And excitement or anxiety, they are about things that have not yet happened. So whilst the grief or the excitement is about something in a different time line or different time span, it's still the feeling that you're feeling right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is why anxiety is unfortunate and fruitless.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, on that note about the full spectrum of our emotions, I didn't avoid the hard ones. I think the sense of stress and surrender in the main task. I did have a play of that one. For me, I think this week is about, okay, we're just going to show up live here now and record ourselves. And this is something newish for us that we've never done it before. So obviously it's like, okay, not sure how this week is going to pan out. But again, it's having that sense and having nature on my back in the park. I just feel truly grateful that even though we are going to explore the full spectrum, it is okay. And that what makes us human. And also that we've got nature on our back, and we know how to deal with it when we learn the technique and able to step into the deep water, if you like, a little bit to explore the unpleasant emotions.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you say, that's surrender and acceptance is a key thing to it, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder also if attached to that or connected to that is the letting go of finding a solution and actually just experiencing the heavy emotions, the painful emotions, if that's what's going on at the time.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, when you said that, I feel the sense of surrender is almost, well, just like life, isn't it? Like you, like intellectually you wanted to figure it out, maybe 5 steps ahead, whatever, how many steps ahead. But in the reality, quite often it's just you have to let life emerge. Sometimes it's not that hard, but other times it can be pretty challenging. So what do you do? I think that's the depths of the personal development work, and also the depths of nature that we talk about. We are nature all the time, but at the embodied sense, nature does encompass everything, and that depths is like we can't figure out through our intellect. It's all through the experiences that things emerge. We can talk about it, but when you look at that actual experiences, that where the languages come from, it's something else, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And I would not want to chuck the intellect out with the bathwater, so to speak, because of course it comes from it's grown from the same place as everything else. Our intellect is as much part of nature as anything else on this planet or the universe. Whether we're talking about fuel guzzling airship carriers, they are still of nature. And our intellect is also a sense. It includes senses. I suppose you could think of sense of justice, sense of correctness. Now that involves some discernment, and obviously it's a mobile thing. It's a sense of justice is not the same for everybody or in every culture or in every situation. So if I don't know if the intellect on its own is an unwise director, but similarly senses without the intellect does limit us in our exploration, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah. I could see, again, going back to that sense of play and humor, because for me, I would just think about how I normally joke with my family, but for the purpose of the exercise and also my own intention, I always want to bring some new experiences in. So I thought about that, and then I just look at my kids. I was like, the answers are right in front of me. Why don't I just go ahead and allow them to guide me? So yeah, I would agree there.
Absolutely. Children, they're all little mammals, aren't they? And the younger they are, the closer they are to that purity of being just pure mammal.
Yeah.
And I suppose as we that illustrates in a way the nature of acquiring conditioned behavior, responses, reactions, etiquette, social and moral etiquette, and all this kind of stuff, the way that we should behave is given and accepted for right and wrong, and for benefit and for detriment as well. And so yes, to be able to maintain the purity of those natural senses, or the senses, and use the intellect as a tool, as it should be, rather than the guiding force, perhaps.
Yeah.
And again, going back to the balance and polarity, the other ends, you and I, other ends of the world, and in the middle is the pivotal point. I wouldn't suggest that the intellect and bodily sensations or senses are equally equidistant from that pivotal point, but it's all balance. And also, usually a dynamic one also. Yeah. So we've gone quite deep there. Probably my fault.
That's okay.
So how?
Yeah, go on.
Well, I was going to ask you, what was the highlight of the senses exploration for you?
Okay. To me, I think again it was because I felt responsible that I need to go through these exercises quite rigorously and seriously myself. Otherwise, what I was going to talk about, right? So I actually spent about two hours, I think, in the local park, and with that 2 hours, rigorously just doing senses and also tapping into them as multi-senses that at the same location. I felt I was incredibly present, actually. I was able to notice many things that was just, I think I walked past many times. For example, the canopy of an oak tree that I often sit near, all of a sudden, as I was just backing away and was just standing there watching my kids, and all of a sudden I stared at the canopy. I was like, oh my gosh, I could not realize that canopy was this huge. And also when we were packing away, there was a bird just flying, actually two of them, but one of them flew past Gemma, my daughter, and it was so close. I was staring at it. I felt the bird was going to hit her head. But when it was almost about to, and the bird just diverted away, and I think that kind of reflects, or whatever it is, again, the intelligence. And I was just looking at it like, oh my gosh, how do you do that, bird? It was just, such a dramatic term. Yeah, and it was again just actually I want to touch upon my way of exploring the five senses in a new way. So apart from the sense of seeing, which I think I've talked about my new experiences, what I did with the other four senses was I closed my eyes. So I thought I'd like to experience these senses in see what a blind person feels like. Well, not technically, because I had the option to see it again when I don't feel safe. So when I was doing the walking on the pathway in the park, was practically no one else, just me and my kids there. Was really an interesting experience, because for me, I felt the sense of touch on my feet. So like was just a lot more present, felt the whole world is just inside my body. I think when you have your eyes open, you don't feel it that way. But at least for me, when I had my eyes closed, I felt the whole world was inside me. And I could feel the pressure on the little pebbles a lot more. Yeah, it was just, and being able to trust my body a lot more while I'm doing that. I think I did 15 seconds of interval with my eyes closed. I didn't want to run into anything, obviously get myself hurt in a pandemic. But that 15 seconds of interval, I did a couple of times. Yeah, just felt I was so much more in the body, and I felt I needed to trust myself a lot more. And with tasting, again, I had my eyes closed. I was drinking some cold juice straight out from the fridge. And again, that sense of grounding is, if I had my eyes open, drinking that juice, which I kind of alternated my experiences while I was drinking that glass. It's just feel, even though I had no distraction, even though I had no kids around me, same spot, just when I had my eyes closed, I felt a lot more grounded. I could just literally feel that juice going down my throat and that sense of coldness. Again, I think simple things like just tapping into this sense, even one sense, like an ordinary sense, new experiences give ourselves an entirely different, entirely different world. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And what it makes me think that I think about how much input our brain deals with every day, like tens and tens and tens and tens of thousands of sensory inputs, and our awareness. Our brain only shares, or whatever it is that's perceiving, only shares a small fraction of that with our awareness, our waking, sensing awareness. Our perception of that. And so that approach of mindfulness to concentrate on one thing, and to the taste and the sense of the coldness that's moving through your body and everything that's attached to that, is a lovely way of illustrating that. There is always so much more going on around us and to us, in front of us and behind us, that we just don't realize, even though it's right there.
Yeah.
And our brains are filtering out all what it's perceived as being unnecessary to our current task or whatever. There's an amazing visual experiment. It's widely available online. I'm trying to remember its name and also describe it in a way that doesn't give it away. It's about counting how many basketball hoops are scored in a game of basketball. I don't know if you familiar with this one?
I don't think so.
Okay, right. Well, I'm not sure if searching for it on the web would spoil the surprise. I don't know if you because you definitely need to do this knowing nothing other than you need to count the basketball hoops that are scored.
Mm-hmm.
And if otherwise, it's like watching a film that has this surprise end. It's like, well, okay, I've seen it once. That I'm not going to be taken by surprise again. So perhaps if you were to search basketball hoop counting experiment, something like that, that might work. But otherwise, Claire, I can send you directly the thing. I'll find it and I'll send it to you directly, so you don't have to worry about the spoiler alert. So it is incredible what we choose, even without conscious choice, what we choose to allow into our perception. Mm-hmm. And so when you think about that, then in the same way, well, and beyond that, that's what we filter out, but what we don't actually experience. So the fact that we don't see in UV light, so you may have seen images of flowers and things that as a bee sees them, and they're incredibly beautiful. These neon colours that looks like an alien landscape, and because that's their experience. We don't have that. So of course that's real to them. That's just physics, the way that light bounces off different things and hits receptors in an eye. So that's physics, it's real. We don't perceive it. So a lot of people say, well, that's not real. How can that possibly be? It must be lying. They've also discovered that forest primates, actually not just primates, a load of nocturnal mammals that live in forests actually are UV. And it was discovered by accident. Somebody, I think it was a field scientist, was doing a bug hunt or something, and she saw this thing moving in the trees, a lot larger, and it was bright. And she realised it was some sort of mammal, tree mammal, and she realised it was reacting, like in a nightclub with the UV light, so like a little bit of a boogie on a dance on a branch. So then she got in contact with museums, and she said, "Can you just take a UV light and go to the specimens you've got, see if anything happens?" And they have different patterns of different lights in the UV. So there's such an incredible amount of information and communication going on past our eyes and through our ears that we have no idea about. So the whole thing about having more senses in the 5 or 6 is perhaps a hard one to initially accept for many people, but it is definitely there. And the more, as you say, the more that we step away from or quieten down our active intellect and just allow these broad senses. I'm not suggesting we're going to be able to see UV marsupials dancing through the trees anytime soon, but there was a lot more there to be experienced and felt.
Yeah. So what's the highlight of your experience, Jim, when you do this exercise?
Well, I think mine actually was discovering my blindness. I went on a walk to a place that I have done for a number of years, and I like it particularly, because it's very accessible to me. There's an uneasy situation, in as much as there's a small pocket of woodland which is nestled in the core of 2 major motorways, and it's also next to a helicopter emergency response field landing place. All that's going on, and then it's got one of the major rescue, like the AA, that kind of people. I don't know what you have in Australia, the Australian Automobile Club or something. But one of the headquarters, which is a very grand, distinctive building. So there's motorways and then woodland, and that's where I choose to go. You can hear the traffic rushing past, and it's literally 20 yards away on one side and 100 meters away on the other. So I went to that space and spent some time there, and saw a really lovely sight whereby there was sun glinting coming through the trees, and it was capturing the threads of spider web silk that had been drifted. So you had this shimmeringness. And then behind the trees, there was a helicopter that was coming to land. But because of the distance, it was the size of a fly, and it was just, I could just see it through the trees, and it was just moving quite insect-like, and it was just a bizarre mix of this petrol guzzling flying machine that's made out of metal and electronics and all this kind of stuff, and then these little threads of spider silk. And that wasn't the highlight, by the way. So anyway, so I walk out from the woodland, and I spot this corner of the field, and I'm thinking, hang on, there's something there that I've not noticed before. Now I've walked around this field before, and I walk up to it, and it's an entrance through the hedge into an entire field that I've never been in. And through it, a grove of, well, the entrance was a grove of horsetail plants about waist height, and the ancient, plants that were around in the dinosaur times, full of silica and full of medicinal benefits. Really good plants. Gardeners hate them because they are very invasive. However, there you go, they were there first. And so it was just the, as we were talking about exploring senses, it's like, hang on, I've been here all these times and I've been absolutely blind to this more space. It's been there all the time. Every time I come to this spot, there has always been this extra space. And for whatever reason, I hadn't noticed it, hadn't been made aware of it. I just hadn't seen it. And then all of a sudden I see it. It's like, oh, wow, I've got an entire new field to roam around and explore, which I did. And there were some beautiful bits up there. So the highlight for me was, I think, that aspect of realizing there's always more. Mm-hmm. To not assume that what you see or what you feel or what you think you understand is the totality of it. And so I suppose with that, if I took it a bit further, would be to realize the limitations of one's own understanding.
Wow, that's profound, Jim. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, I think.
One question I want to quickly touch upon is, what are the senses perhaps that you're not familiar with after you've gone through the exercises, if any?
The senses that I'm not familiar with. Oh,
yeah, God, not so familiar with.
Well, there are loads that I really have trouble accessing or getting in touch with at all, to be honest. Which is kind of, I suppose, how I came about to this thing about, I would feel lacking, that I look at this particular sense. Oh, I don't feel, I can't. How am I feeling that? Have I ever felt that? No, I don't think so. Oh, I must be doing something wrong. It's like, well, no, hang on. I'm alive. I'm living. I am animal. I have a brain that does things. So there is no right or wrong. Obviously, what you do with it to other people is, that gets into grey areas. But things like, I'm trying to think of ones that I'll tell you. I'm going to have a quick. I was thinking about senses that I do experience more of, and I wasn't thinking what I don't. Funnily enough. That's all about strengths rather than deficits, I think. But I did stumble upon one, and I'm trying to find it again now. No, I can't. No. I've just seen one. It's the horticultural sense, the sense of growing and nurturing. I'm happy with that one.
Yeah, I suppose it's just the senses I've given out in day one. You don't need to go into the whole.
Oh, okay, right, yeah. I suppose, interestingly, one that I tend not to rely on until it makes itself much more apparent is that true? The sense of, I was going to say, the sense of smell. Okay. I do tend to use I use my eyes a lot and my ears. And so, yeah, the sense of, well, no, that's not actually true, because I'm sitting there and I'm now thinking about it. Yes, I can smell the earth and the differences in the seasons and all this kind of stuff. So I suppose touch would be possibly the least used one for me, particularly into the sense of internal sensations. I think I have a habit of not paying them enough attention.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's come from having been a landscaper and labourer and worked hard stuff doing various jobs. But I always needed my body to just do it, get on with it. So aches and pains, I'd kind of work through. My eating, for example, the sense of hunger, I ignore that now pretty much. It comes and I go, yep, that's that hunger sensation, and I ignore it because the way that I eat. And so within recent years, the acquaintance with my own internal sensations has deepened more than it used to. But even so, I still kind of go, oh, I hadn't realised, but I'm feeling uncomfortable. Yeah, I've been sitting reading a screen for however many hours, and I go, oh God, my back's a bit sore, actually, isn't it? Yeah. So that's dissociation from that sense. But we're then getting into trance states, because when you focus that deeply on something, that's when you do start paying less attention to other stimuli. Yeah. How about yourself? Did you have senses that you?
So just from the day one exercises, and I'll touch upon an extra one because the thought just came to me. I think it's a sense of sport, that sense, that very long sense of play, sport, humor, laughter, blah, 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 blah. And there's one word in there is sense of sport. And I was like, oh, wow. Oh, I feel a bit like, I don't know, like I have not been exercising with my kids around at all during pandemic. And so that's it for me. So it came to me is like, okay, that's something that I can be more mindful about. And when there's an opportunity, then I need to balance that, isn't it?
With that, that's a really interesting one, actually. Really, yes, I'm glad you mentioned it. Because you could, again, with the labels and use of language, I mean, the sense of sport, could that also be described as the sense of being challenged for the enjoyment of being challenged and meeting challenge?
Yeah, I suppose. Again, English is not my first language, but I think when I watch the movie, I can see that connotation coming through. When people even describe business as a sport, other things as well.
And it's interesting because the reason that what you said just sparks that, particularly now. I was thinking about computer games earlier on, and how obviously there and also films, I guess, how there are so many games. Let's keep on games. So many games where you've got to kill things, destroy things, blow things up, da 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 da. It's all very exciting. And you get far fewer things that you don't. There are some games where you can grow gardens, but not very many. And I was thinking, why is it? What's the draw to battling? Why is that so exciting and so enticing compared to doing something which is much easier and much more productive? Growing a forest or a forest garden ultimately is much better exercise than killing people. So why where is this attraction from? And the fact that obviously it's in computer games, that's a sport of sorts. So when you said the sense of sport, I thought, well, yeah, what's at the root of that? Is it about creating and overcoming challenge without the dreadful consequence of being killed, for example, unless you're an extreme thrill seeker, free climbing on the needle or whatever. Obviously, I shouldn't make light of accidental death because it does happen. But the extreme sports players, they recognise that and they embrace it and they accept the fact that they might fall off a tall rock and they might not survive. So that's taking that sense of sport to quite a degree. So yeah, I think there might be more in the sense of sport to just being aware or having the feeling of having a game. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, and again, sense of horticultural, the ones that you're an expert on, just.
Well, I did about expert.
It's just because of your profession, I suppose. Yeah, and the other day, somehow Facebook know what I was searching for, just gave me an app on the feed. It's called Blossom. So apparently now you can take a picture or whatever, scan that plant, and the app will tell you what's wrong with the plant, and then you can fix it.
Absolutely, I can imagine all the horticulturalists, walking around gardens with the sea, full of you see that over there? Yes, that's whatever that plant is, giving you a Latin binomial, and then just whipping out the mobile camera on the slide, going, looks like it's got a nutrient deficiency there. I think maybe magnesium's a bit short, sodium perhaps. So yeah, the sense of horticulture, sense of play, sense of sport.
Yeah.
But having said that, I have never really, something not something I've explored terribly deeply, but there is a sense of health or well-being when you become familiar with plants. Mm-hmm. I can look at a plant. Well, I can look at a plant from a mile away and say it's going to die in 5 seconds. No, but when you're working closely with plants, you become very familiar with them in the same way as with somebody who you spend a lot of time with. If they're looking a bit off colour, or if their movements aren't quite what you're used to seeing, or if they're being a bit erratic or whatever, you spot. You might not know what's wrong, but you might go, "Are you okay today? There's something a little bit different about you." And it's the same with plants. And so that sensation, that knowledge, that understanding that it's not, there may well be, and probably is much deeper communication. But just to show that just using those fewer senses, you can still get quite a deep understanding, certainly enough to be useful about the surroundings around you, and living things, obviously, because they change constantly, and so the differences are perhaps more highlighted. I'd be much harder pressed to have a chat with a stone and say, you're looking a little bit under the weather today. Are you okay? So my bonding with stones is not quite the same.
Yeah, well, yeah, it just shows that, I suppose, I've got no idea of people's experiences, because you spend a lot of time doing landscaping. So, and I've got no idea what kind of landscaping you do, but presumably that experience shaped how you bond with plants, perhaps. But
it also informed how I react and interact with ants.
Yeah,
because ants can be a right pain in the bum when they're in the wrong place. Well, when the gardener thinks they're in the wrong place, very destructive. And so when you are landscaping or just gardening generally, you might have the need or the desire to destroy a nest, basically. And of course, that's thousands of little individuals who have been, dehomed, chucked out, all the little eggs that most of which, or a lot of which, won't survive because they'll be eaten by something else, a bird that comes by. There's a huge amount of disruption, definitely life-changing for the ants. So, thinking about that much effect that often, every garden, in certain areas, you can go every garden and you're going to have to be changing or disrupting a colony's lifestyle. And it changed the way that I approached things, in the same way as I had to clear a land, an expanse of bramble. Now, I was very confident that it would be done at some time soon by somebody else. Excuse me. And it was to the advantage of, it was for a house sale, not mine. It was a house that was for sale. And so I cleared the bramble intentionally and with regret, because obviously it's a beautiful habitat for so many different things. And that balance between my needs or my actions because of somebody else's needs, balancing against the needs of the bramble habitat. It's like, well, I am sorry, but this is going to be done at some point. So I'd rather do it with the intent that I have, so that makes the house sell even more easily. So the owner, works for them. And so there's just this balance and taking a step back. And the same with the ants. It's like, I'm really sorry, but you are basically one entity. You are all little tiny things of the same thing, as we are, but we just don't accept that. I wouldn't go around. I wouldn't take that any further. So my balance. I acknowledge to the ants that yes, I am having a destructive impact on you, and I am sorry about that. But if I need to grow my food or make a change, so we can discuss this when I meet you, when I am no longer in this body, and actually the ants will be feeding on my body probably as I degrade in the ground. If I get buried, I haven't decided yet.
Cool, Jim. That was fun exploration from sense of horticulture to all of a sudden to ant.
Yeah, I'm trying to locate my sense of control. It's okay.
I so appreciate it because it's getting late there for you. And just now when you were talking, I had a moment of thought. I was like, wow, so late for him over there now. And the way he's communicating is much more energetic than me because I'm still like waking up. But yeah, it just feels like you're in the morning, I'm at nighttime. Given the time we got, I think we'll just quickly touch upon the nuances of learning. So if you, again, have to be a teacher, a instructor, what are the things that comes to your mind now that about day one, the senses that you think that you could give away as useful teaching to everybody else?
I think what we've been talking about, some of the things we've already mentioned, a sense of playfulness. Don't take yourself too seriously. Don't take it too seriously. There is humor everywhere. When I think about myself, I still am to some degree, actually, so I'm full stop. I'm quite shy about where I do stuff. I'm very conscious that if I'm walking through a public park where there's loads of people, my actions might look very peculiar to some people. So there's that, and so when I tend not to be an exhibitionist in my nature connection, but when I am exploring it, I referred to earlier like feeling lacking in my nature connection. Well, that's just rubbish because we cannot be lacking in nature connection. We can be lacking in our awareness of it and exploration of it. So therefore, if it's as it is already there, when we are in a relaxed state, not stressed, and we're relaxed, we physiologically, the brain chemistry allows us to be much, much more creative in our thoughts, much more receptive to new concepts and to suggestions. So as we explore and reacquaint ourselves with what we already have, what we already are, what we have learned to forget. Excuse me. As we explore, we gain that memory. Be gentle and have fun with yourself, because yes, you'll get it wrong, and you might feel like a complete idiot, having spent however long trying to find a sense of something and it didn't come in the way that you wanted it to. It doesn't matter, it's there. And so just to be gentle, playful, and don't be dogmatic. Like I say, many books are written, well, yeah, but they are not written about your life. You have the memories and you have the experience of your life. So that'd be my main thing, I think. There you go. How about yourself?
To me, I think I'm just thinking about over the years, my experiences or my love and hate relationship with senses, if you like. I think initially I felt it was quite dull, to be honest. And I think it's, well, from hindsight, it just really reflected my relationship with the earth, if you like. And as the years that have gone by, and I felt particularly since I started to tap into multi-senses, and I felt that really helped me stay more grounded, if you like, so that I don't go, okay, well, this is finished, now move on to the next one. So it's sort of constantly hopping from one sense to the other. That I felt I'm much more grounded with multiple senses approach, and particularly when I explore the comparison between the multi-senses and one single sense at the same location. So I think that's very useful. And also, if anybody else is like me, feeling the dreadedness sometimes of exploring this, like this is the least part that I like. But hey, this is the most important part. As a teacher, instructor, although I don't like to put that kind of title on me, but in this 5-day, I cannot stress enough how important it is that this just lays the foundation of everything else. Like we want to have deep, meaningful, powerful, however you want to put it in, insightful experiences with nature. Without the senses, nothing else will come through. Like none of those depths, none of those insight, none of those meaningful experiences will come through. And engaging with senses takes time. And that's something that we cannot just skip, and hopefully something else more exciting will come in, because the moment we recognize that it's boring, it's a chore, it's a sign of us disconnecting from our own nature already.
Yeah, very true. Yes, thank you. It's very, very valuable lesson from someone who is definitely worthy of the title of teacher and instructor. Yes, make time for it.
Cool. So do you have anything else to add? I think that otherwise then we'll probably just complete today's live Q&A, and I'll stop recording in a moment.
Yeah, no, I think I've had really enjoyed our chat and our exploration.
Okay.
Yeah, so thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Jim.
Yes, the insights.
Yeah, cool. Okay, and we'll do again, obviously, on your Tuesday night for the next one.
Yes, that is tomorrow.